Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Burke County Board of Commissioners pre-agenda meeting for Monday, December the 6th, 2021. It's 3 o'clock after. All commissioners are present today. As county manager, clerk, assistant, and our attorney. So everybody's present and accounted for. Let me ask you to silence your mobile devices. If you've got any devices that make a noise, take care of that. And I'll ask you to come to the podium and be sure the microphone is on when you make presentations today. All right. With that, gentlemen, item number 2, approval of the agenda. When you've had the agenda, I'll entertain a motion for its approval.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Wayne. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I believe that's all of us. Item number 3 on our agenda will be the organization of the board. That'll take place at our regular meeting. You see 5 items there. Election of the chair, election of the vice chair, appointment of the county attorney, appointment of the tax attorney, and appointment of the clerk to the board. All that will take place, and without objection, these 5 items will remain on the agenda. Item number 4, presentations. I have no presentations for today. Item 5 is scheduled public hearings. This will come from Community Development Zoning Map Amendment ZMA 2021-12 and public hearing. This will be presented by Alan Glines, our planning director. Afternoon, Alan.
For your review and consideration is a request we've received from Lake James Real Estate and Slope Solutions for a rezoning of a 7.5 acre parcel from residential 3 R3 to conservation. There we go here. Just move that up a little bit. The surrounding area out there is lots of vacant territory, some agricultural uses, lots of wooded tracts of land. And this is sort of the existing land use map. The parcel in question is, I'm going to get this thing right here in a minute. Going to get that to work. Anyways, the parcel outlined in white, in red there, 7.5 acre tract, vacant, surrounded by agricultural uses, mostly farm fields in the green, and then the single family homes are in the yellow out there. There we go. So, I'm not going to really read well on that. But anyway, that's the territory right there. We'll just move that down on the map, existing land use map. Please. Can I get the next map down, please? Thank you. All right, so that's the existing aerial map. We're not far from Fontaflora. It's just down the road, a little less than half a mile further down on 126. There's a crossroads there. In the middle of the crossroads is a small business. It's the Lake James Real Estate. And then the area kind of right here was formerly a grocery store at one time in the past. These parcels here are also owned by the Slope Solutions folks, and they would sort of incorporate the uses all together should that ever be developed. Next map. Thank you. This is the future land use map. And it's a Lake James overlay area. So this is an area of special consideration for Lake James in the future. And so we want to take special consideration for residential uses, but also complementary non-residential uses. So there's a list in the table of uses that explains things that could happen in this sort of area under conservation, if it was conservation, and it includes things like special facilities, venues, some commercial uses, so things that could complement use and enjoyment of the lake. That's the idea of this special district. Next map, please. All right, so this is the current zoning map. The area here is the residential 3. Would be requested to go to conservation, basically surrounded by conservation territory, except for this little crossroads area that was set aside for commercial uses. The area has a number of other special overlays, including lake water supply, scenic overlay as well. And so all those are meant to kind of manage uses in the future, protecting water quality over time, and also the scenic qualities of that part of the county. And like I said, it would permit both single-family dwellings and some other uses, including golf course, park, public stable, special event grounds, community centers, or a motel. That kind of use could go there. There would be special characteristics about color and architecture to kind of help them blend in, and also provide buffers to the, if there was that remaining tract of single family, could also be buffered from that site. The planning board did review this at their meeting on October 28th, and they recommended approval of that change. We can slide down and look at some more photos as well. As I said, the zoning ordinance will protect single-family uses with buffers from this site should it be developed in the future. So there's sort of the territory there. There's sort of open, had formerly been used in commercial way. This is the former store that was there. This is the real estate office today. This is kind of the crossroads area of that part. Any questions about this request?
All right, thank you, Alan. Any questions of Alan on this matter?
Mr. Chairman, I think I have two. Alan, I guess the first thing, I noticed in your presentation that possible uses would be entertainment, restaurants, or grocery store, et cetera, et cetera. With that in mind, and knowing how much or how many cars and traffic problems that could create in that area. And I noticed on the comment under background, the parcel has legal access by permanent, non-exclusive right-of-way as described in deed, so and so and so forth. What does that really say? Is there actually property between this property and the highway that doesn't belong to them?
Yes, if we could go back to the map that showed the, it may be existing zoning or the aerial, I think we can explain that probably a little better. The two owners going in together here include Slope Solutions. It's a company that they do grading work and other development.
I read that, yes.
They own everything here on the side of this track, and so this is, they're actually part and parcel to this ownership of this site as well, along with Lake James Real Estate. So they're planning to work together to get access into this site. And you can see where this is right across from that intersection. We're not going to have to go past the home up here or do something. It's really direct from the roadway here. So I think we kind of got a pretty good spot to get into this site. My understanding was it could come right through here on that corner.
Well, I guess my question is, and I don't know how much improvement they're planning to do to that piece of property or how they're going to arrange it or anything.
Right.
But as you know and I know, there's no business unless you have access to that business.
Right.
And I'm just maybe trying to head off a headache somewhere down the road. That it'd be nice to have some kind of plan that how they're going to access that road, because this permanent non-inclusive right-of-way basically says, you know, you may get on it and audit, but off of it, but you know, there's no real plan of where it's going to be and what it's going to be. Is it going to be dirt? Is it going to be pavement? Do we know?
Well, if it's a commercial, non-residential use, it'll have to be an improved access. So if there's anything that happens that's non-residential, our site plan group in Burke County would review all those components of a new development for safety and access. It would be part and parcel and a component of that. I feel like if there's anything non-residential going to happen there, we're going to get a paved road in there. It's going to have fire access. We're going to be dealing with it, you know, like any other formal submittal, and that's how we review it. So those get reviewed by the site plan committee here in Burke County for that.
So you're okay with that terminology?
Yeah, I think that the non-exclusive part is, it's not exclusive to to the scale or type of use. It's not saying it's got to only be residential or whatever. That's what that's really saying about that type of access onto that parcel. They don't have a limitation on the scale of it per se.
Well, I agree it'd be kind of a nice addition to that community, so, but that just kind of threw up a red flag. What does that really mean? How do I get in and out of that property?
Yeah. I think that a good part about this request is, even though we're surrounded by a lot of other conservation property, the zoning is helpful, and the owners have to also be willing to want to do the next thing and maybe see development. So these folks are putting their efforts together here to try to get something going. So hopefully we'll see a plan. We don't have a plan right now specifically for this site, but they're asking for this rezoning to help us get step in the right direction.
All right.
Okay.
That's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Other questions, comments? Seeing here none, this item will remain on the agenda as a scheduled public hearing. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
This brings us to our consent agenda. First item on our consent agenda is commission appointments. Gentlemen, you see there in your package the appointments as they currently are, and we're showing suggestions for next year, but if you've got any concerns, questions, be glad to hear those, or if you'd like a change, be glad to hear that, or let us know in the next few days so that we can get that sorted out. Any comments on this item?
Mr. Chairman, I'm happy with what I got, and I think everybody's happy with what they have, but I do want to remind you that some time ago, it could have been 3 or 4 years by now, but we did consider looking at those policies and maybe changing that. Once you had 4 years on one committee, you were taken off of that, and we'd have to do that away from our general meeting. But if there's still interest in that, it'd be a good time to tackle that question.
Okay. Other thoughts or comments on this item? All right. Well, let us know if you desire a change. Otherwise, this item will remain on the agenda without objection. Item number 2, adoption of rules of procedure for 2022. You have those in front of you. They're presented as they have been. No change at this point. Any questions, concern about the rules? Hearing none, if anything comes to mind, please let us know. We can address those, but otherwise we'll leave them there as they are. Without objection, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 3 comes from the clerk, resolution establishing Board of Commissioners 2022 meeting schedule. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This resolution sets your meeting schedule for 2022. If we can go to the next slide, please. We have pre-agendas held on the first Tuesday of the month, except in December. We have a organizational meeting scheduled for the first Monday in December of 2022. We have a reception scheduled for any newly elected officials at 2:30 with a pre-agenda meeting following at 3 o'clock. Regular meetings are set at 6 p.m. on the third Tuesday. We have a budget planning retreat scheduled for February 3rd and 4th. That's a Thursday and Friday, 2022 at the Lake James State Park Visitor Center in Nebo. Budget workshops are scheduled for Friday, May 20th at 2 o'clock, Thursday, May 26th, and Thursday, June 2nd, all of those at 2 o'clock in this room. We have referenced the association's annual conference in Cabarrus County at the Concord Convention Center, August 11th through 13th in 2022. And the rest of it just kind of repeats that, and we will notice any special or emergency meeting with proper notice. be happy to try to answer any questions you may have. And if you have a conflict, please let me know.
All right, thank you, Kay. Any question on this item? Everything's routine there. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Without objection, this item will remain on the agenda. Item number 4, clerk reappointments to the Board of Equalization and Review. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request to reappoint James Gordon, seat number 2, and Doris Smith, seat number 4, to the Board of Equalization and Review for 3-year terms ending December 31st, 2024. Both are good members and both are willing to serve another 3-year term.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any question on this item? Hearing none, this item will remain on the consent agenda without objection. Item number 5, appointments, removals to the Board of Health. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, members of the board. This is a request to remove Connie Stein's name from the official roster from the Board of Health. She resigned recently, and to thank her for her service to the community. At your seats, you also have an application that came in after the agenda had been published from a Dr. Kenneth Humphreys. He's an engineer. The engineer seat is filled, but the Board of Health is checking in with him to see if there's somewhere else we can place him on the board. So we might have an appointment to go with this item, but we might not. So we'll let you know what I hear back from the Board of Health.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. And that reminds me, I've been seeing that engineering post in the paper. You might want to touch base with them. I keep seeing it advertised.
I already have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Any question on this item? Seeing here none, this item will remain without objection. Item number 6, clerk removal appointment to JCPC. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is a request to replace Tara Conrad on the JCPC with another partner's representative, Dr. Katie Barnadeau. Tara needs to focus on partners' tailored plan operations and would respectfully request that you replace her with Katie Barnadeau.
All right, any question on this item? Hearing none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 7, clerk appointments, reappointments to the Library Board of Trustees. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request to reappoint Browning Rochford, seat number 1, a Morganton resident, to remove Mr. Cothran from the roster and thank him for his service, and to appoint Mark Patrick, seat number 4 at large, for a 3-year term ending December 31st, 2024, and that was also the same length of term for Browning.
All right, any question on this item? Hearing none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 8, clerk reappointments to the TDA. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request to reappoint Rebecca Randolph, seat number 1, Rob Winkler, seat number 2, Marissa Angie, seat number 3, Dana Wisnett, seat number 5, and Mike Watts, seat number 7, to the Tourism Development Authority for 2-year terms ending December 31st, 2023.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any question on this item? Hearing none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 9, clerk appointment to the WPRTA. Madam Clerk.
This is a request to appoint Alan Glines, our new planning director, to seat number 2, or basically it's the alternate on the Western Piedmont Regional Transportation Authority Board to complete a term ending June 30th, 2022. That would replace Mr. Carpenter, who was in that capacity prior.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Any question on this item? Hearing none, item 9 will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 10, clerk NCDOT secondary roads resolution. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request that we get every year or so from NCDOT to send them an updated resolution regarding the addition of secondary roads to the state maintenance system.
All right, gentlemen, you've had the opportunity to look at that. Any question on this item? Hearing none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 11 comes from the clerk, adoption of general records retention schedule for local government agencies. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We also have records management analyst Sarah Morrell on standby in case we have any questions. We appreciate Sarah being here today. The state has issued a new records and retention schedule, and they have taken some records that are very common to all the schedules that they have and put them in one schedule, and then that's called the general records schedule, which replaces the county management schedule. And they've also created a program schedule. In your packet you have the standards that these affect, and they also combined county records with municipal records, so they've really done some rearranging and some consolidation. So we have new schedules that we need to approve that deal with the retention and disposition of county records. Some of these things, if we, like for example, the airport authority or the transportation authority, we are not the creator of those records, so any of those standards in these schedules to entities like those do not apply to us. So we've just put NA on that just so there's no confusion, but we just need to adopt these schedules. And any of these that, like the DSS board, the health board, those entities will also need to approve these schedules and sign the form. But we thought we'd start here first and then let them follow up behind us.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Sarah, thank you for being here. Any comments that you'd like to make?
No, I think Kay did a wonderful job. But if you guys have any questions, happy to answer them.
All right, any questions for Sarah or Kay this afternoon?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to know if there's a general statement or something. How does this change from last year? And how does this improve over last year? Or this is just routine with more entities in it?
How it changed is they took records that were in everybody's schedule, and there's like 8, 10, 12 different schedules. We had one, the sheriff had one, the health board had one, DSS had one. So they kind of took all the records that all these divisions have in common and put them in one place. It will actually make it easier for the state when they change a retention or disposition schedule that is in the general schedule. They only have to change one thing instead of having to change it in every one of those schedules. So I think it makes it easier for them in that process. It's really not too different from what we have. It's just rearranged differently. Does that make sense? And we just do this anytime they have a new schedule. So they want to get in the habit of, or the cycle of updating a schedule or two every year. And as soon as they can make that happen, we'll kind of be on a roll, but that's not where they are yet. And Sarah may be able to speak more to that.
And I understand if we take the lead and we okay this, it will be up to each one of those entities to also accept and follow through.
Yes, and I'll make sure that they get that on their agendas.
And if one doesn't follow through, they're...
Oh, they will.
Oh, they will, okay.
They will.
All right. That's the questions I had, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All right, again, Sarah, thank you for being with us. We'll leave this on our consent agenda. Item number 12, Community Development. Accept Wildlife Resources Commission Watermill Access Memorandum of Agreement. This will be presented by Shane Prisby, our Operations Manager. Afternoon, Shane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. The Community Development Department is proposing a memorandum of agreement with the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission, or WRC, for the renovation of Watermill Access. WRC is an important partner to Burke County and has been point on the design, engineering, and permitting for the Watermill Access Project. In 2017, the county entered into an MOA with Duke Energy to renovate the Watermill Access Boat Launch as part of the Catawba Wateree Comprehensive Relicensing Agreement, or CRA. Duke Energy provided $70,200 to the county as part of the MOA. $500 of the initial funding has been spent to date. In 2018, the county partnered with the Resource Institute, a 501c3 nonprofit with a focus on water quality improvements, to apply for additional funding to renovate Watermill Access. When the initial grant request was not awarded, the county increased the project funding by $14,500 to make the grant more competitive, but was not successful in the second application. In 2020, Community Development began partnering with WRC on the renovations of Watermill Access. WRC has the expertise and staff for both the engineering and construction of the project. Preliminary plans have been drawn up and the project is in the permitting stage. The preliminary estimates came in over the project budget, but WRC agreed to help with the overrun so that paving of the site did not need to be eliminated from the project. The county will need to enter into an MOA with WRC to transfer the remaining construction funds totaling $84,200 to WRC so that they can begin to construct the improvements to Watermill Access and satisfy the obligations to Duke Energy. WRC anticipates construction to begin in summer 2020. This MOA before you is under legal review at WRC, and this is the most current edition of the document. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you, Shane. Any questions for Shane on this item?
Mr. Chairman, I didn't have one, but did want to just underline that $84,200 we're giving back to Duke Power.
We would be giving that to WRC, essentially hiring them to build the project in partnership with us. So that would cover the expenses. We would supply that money, and anything over that amount, WRC would absorb from their project funding.
And you say that will satisfy our obligations under other memos of agreement to Duke Power?
That is correct, Commissioner. We took the initial funding of $70,000 and some change, and as part of that, we took on the responsibility for ensuring that the boat launch is upgraded, and we feel that this is the best partnership for us to be able to do that, working with an organization that has engineering and construction in-house, and that is Wildlife Resources.
Do we have a recourse if WRC doesn't finish it?
I believe that would be in the agreement,
Okay,
spelled out, and that would be the obligations we'd all be held under.
all right. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question or two. Shane, did we get any other input from any local groups? You know, those trout groups that are local that have inquired about this project. Have we spoken with those folks and gotten any input from them, from the public?
This did go through the lengthy comprehensive relicensing agreement process that had a lot of stakeholder groups that really did push for this project's adoption in the beginning. Since then, I'm not aware of any specific public information sessions we've had on this project since its inclusion in the CRA.
Okay, I just know there's a lot of interested groups out there. I've used this ramp for years, and it needs help. It's not in the best shape, and the grade is pretty rough. And I noticed when looking at the renderings, they're going to put a new concrete, reinforced concrete ramp down and make the grade even at 15 degrees, which would help a lot. Anyway, it's a great project. What kind of time frame are we looking at?
They're hoping to begin in 2022,
Okay.
and hopefully having it done in the year. They have another boat launch just up the river from there. It will be a brand new boat launch that they'll be building in conjunction. So they'll be moving crew into the area already. So the idea is to run the two projects in tandem. And that way that they get a lot of economy of scale from that.
So where's the new, which boat ramp are you talking about?
It will be North Bend. It's the other bridge coming from Glen Alpine
Oh,
towards
yeah.
the lower part of the
Yeah.
dam.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Okay.
Very well.
Shane, did WRC also, were they responsible for the new location at Bristol Industries on 70? Is that something they did as well?
The Muddy Creek access area, that is a Duke Energy project. I believe that Duke Energy ran that one in-house, and that they have a series of projects up and down the river, including one with Morganton, where they took on the responsibility by the weir to add that, so that we'll have a series of new, improved, easy access put-ins that people can kind of choose how long their float's going to be, if they, so they don't have to just put it at Bridgewater and hit rough, kind of white caps right at the beginning of their trip. I think that's going to help a lot. I think it's going to help EM a lot down there and have to decrease the amount of issues of people tipping their canoes out and needing help.
Like, any other questions?
After completion, Shane, what does the county have to keep up with? What are we going to repair? What maintenance do we have to do for how long?
We will be, I think the lease agreement or the MOA agreement is 25 years, but it is our property and we will be maintaining it in perpetuity, which we do currently maintain now, but we spend a tremendous amount of money just trying to keep the gravel up. And you can throw it in that hole and it keeps running right out. So I think that it will, over time, decrease our annual maintenance costs on this by having it paved, having improved drainage, and making it easier. And I'm not sure what the official lifespan of the concrete and the paving are, but we'd be eligible in the future for, we'd look for other opportunities to upgrade it.
So the ramp's going to make a significant difference?
Substantial, absolutely.
Okay.
Currently the ramp is, I don't remember the exact pitch, maybe 18%, but it comes down and it turns. The plan is to do away with that entirely. So I believe they remove it, they do pour in place, and then they push it in. I think they'd slide it down in, so you'd have a reinforced structure that all one pour that's going to sit there. I think it will be there for a very long time.
You have personnel to take care of this?
It is maintained through Parks and Recreation. So they would be the ones doing every day, taking care of the site and making sure it's draining and working, everything's picked up. And then for larger projects, which would be many years down the road, that would have to be probably hired out.
Thank you.
Other question, comment?
Mr. Chairman, may I ask JR a question? I went over this thing 3 times at home, JR, and it's one of those things that we don't have a what-if clause in there really to protect either party. But my question really is what happens, and these things can happen to no fault of the people who are doing the work. I mean, you can have a heart attack. There's all kinds of things. You can die in a wreck. But what happens if the project is not finished on time to suit the partner that we partnered with, which is Duke Power? What's our recourse? Anything? Should we have anything? And you might want to say, let me think about that the next meeting, and I'll tell you. But it just seems that we are, if you will, we're sitting with not guarding ourselves to that. We're unguarded in that contract. So, I mean,
well, I would like a little more time on that, but if a party doesn't hold up to their end of the memorandum of agreement, then the county's free to terminate it and find somebody else who can work with them better.
but we've already turned the money over, right? That's what I mean. Do we turn in half the money or all of it at one time, or do we pay them as they progress? I just, are you saying yes?
Yes, we would pay them as they do the work. We would not be turning all the funds over in the beginning.
I didn't get that from reading that phrase. It says we would give them or turn them over the $84,000.
Shane, that was my understanding from conversations about this agreement. Is that not correct, that we would be paying them as the work progresses?
I can ask them the specifics on that. not positive the expectation at this point.
We always have ways to get it back. Let's put it
Do what?
that way. We always have ways to get it back.
I'll not ask it again, Mr. Chairman.
All right, other questions, comments? All right.
Mr.
here-
Britton,
Yes.
we would need to amend the motion to include an appropriation of the funds because they've been held in fund balance since it's been several years since we received them from Duke. And we'll provide that for the, I can work with Kay on that motion, but it does not address, it mentions the budgetary effect, but it doesn't identify that there's a need to include in the motion that wording to budget it.
Okay, all right, you'll work with Kay on that then. All right, hearing nothing further, this item will remain on the consent agenda.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Shane. Item number 13 comes from our county manager, acknowledgement of intent to retire. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We are approaching the conclusion of the second extension of my employment with the county in 2022. I wanted to give the board plenty of notice because in about 6 months, I would think that you would be very active in initiating the recruitment process. So that 6 months is going to fly by. And as we look down the road, you're looking at a large amount of federal funds coming in, as well as the opioid settlement, which I think will be paid out over 18 years. And this is a good point to change managers, I believe, and bring fresh perspective from the manager to the board, and hopefully take us on to where we need to be. And I do appreciate the opportunity to serve.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, can I add one thing, though? When we get down to number 8, could we let Shane show us something new that we didn't have the chance to get on the agenda? Because he's going to actually be off on our regular meeting. So if we could let him show that, take you 5 minutes at the most, and I think you'll find it quite very neat and cool.
Which number was that?
In the reports section, number 8.
Okay, all right, very good, thank you. Yes, don't let me forget. All right, this item will remain on the consent agenda without objection. Item 14 comes from Finance, approval of comprehensive financial policy, and this comes from Margaret Pierce, our Deputy County Manager, Finance Director. Afternoon, Margaret.
Good afternoon. This is a follow-up on more policies that the School of Government and the LGC recommend we have in place. It's, again, writing down the things that we do anyhow. We manage the cash, we take care of deposits, but this puts a written policy in place for all of those, all the items that they recommend you cover. It will cover our operating budget policy, which is really in our ordinance as well, but this gives it codification here, expense policy, reserve policy, transfers, a capital improvement policy. We don't have a written policy, and that's one thing that we're going to use the study from Mosley's to create, to get us a true, a set plan or thought process into what we need to be doing building-wise in the 5, 10, 15, 20-year process on large items like that, buildings and such. It will address accounting policies, the fact that we follow the North Carolina Local Budget and Fiscal Control Act, funding policies, how we fund capital improvement, other post-employment benefits, law enforcement, cash management policy, that we follow the state guidelines on what we can invest in and how we might do that, and banking relationships. Purchasing and contracting, we approve the big policy and procedures. This identifies that we bullet points a few things in there and identifies that we have that other policy and that we will maintain this and evaluate it as we go through. What questions would you like to start with?
All right, thank you, Margaret. Gentlemen, you've had an opportunity to look this financial policy over. Any questions for Margaret on this item?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this is a beautiful policy, and you know how I feel about policies. But there are a couple areas, some words I just don't particularly, page 2, generally, all grants over $90,000 pursued by the staff of the Burke County will be presented. Can we remove generally? Can we get down to specifics? that all grants over 90 come to you instead of generally?
I'd like to see all grants before they go out, because sometimes we put ourselves in a bind and we don't realize it until we've already applied and been awarded. But it is something we can think about, how we want to do that
I
process.
want you to think about that. I think we leave ourselves open to a little bit of interpretation. If you're going to go to the point that you have gone to make this as strong as it is, just a little bit more, maybe to make it
I'm
even,
happy to take that.
to remove some things like that. And even if you go under number 4, it says the county will strive to ensure that the enterprise funds are financially self-sufficient. That's great. Can you give me how we're going to do that?
I think that would be more of a plan than a policy. But the plan is, we are evaluating the rates. I think we need to have this is a conversation we've had at budget time. We need a rate study. We need an efficiency study done on the water sewer particularly, but also the landfill, because the landfill, you know, we talked at audit about the negative operating. Landfill is there as well. The state just doesn't ask for a response on that one. But we need to work on those, and that's something Mark's well aware of, and he's doing a great job hitting some, you know, low-hanging fruit as he can with everything else he's got going on. But I definitely think a plan needs to be created that evaluates that. I picked up some.
Can you change that sentence to say the county will and show how we will? We got another section on the next page that says the county will strive. So we got the county striving, the county striving, the county striving. You see where I'm going with this? Put a little meat into it if you can.
Yes, sir.
I think it would behoove this board and the board that follows us, makes it a lot easier if it's black and white.
No, I think that's valid.
I think it's valid too. I just, there's a couple, if you want me to send it to
Okay.
you.
That'll be fine, to make sure I address them all, but I can go through and look for that. The one section I think you don't set a flat out avoid, maybe some what you might call ambiguous language, is under the reserve policy just down on page 2. I don't know how tied you want to be to a goal limit on fund balance. The 32% is 4 months working capital, and I don't think you can say what happens. I mean, if you want to say what happens if you're under it, and you want to say what happens if you're over it, the problem is you don't know what the economy's going to do and what circumstances might be. So if we're at 31%, you know, there may be a range of a goal in there. If you're talking about getting something very specific there, I might not feel that's a place you want to do that. Unless you want to identify what happens to money if you're over that goal. I've seen policies that do that.
I read it, and I kind of just, it would be tough. It's tough to tie yourself to 32%, you know. It's, those percentages, LGC recommends that counties, comparable counties of our size, be it 32% or 38%, you know. I don't know that you tie yourself down to a percentage.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
If there was, you know, we'd love to have a range, but I don't, when reval comes up, we never know what's going to happen during a revaluation. So I think it'd be absolutely tough to tie us down to a percentage.
Okay. So as I'm looking at making language stronger when it says strive or work toward and trying to put it more specific, I'm not going to address that. Okay. Other?
Margaret, would be okay, you know, just listening to that makes sense. The 32% does tie us down. Would we want to put language in there that just says to be comparable to our peers? That gives us some leeway and gives us a goal.
Or comparable to what the LGC recommends.
Right. 4 months working capital is a good recommendation for a county our size. That's actually where they'd like to see us. So, and this one is written to say that we'll work toward the unassigned fund balance an amount equal to 32%, i.e. an amount equal to 4 months operating capital. But we could change it if you think it should state the range that the LGC recommends. They want to see what we want. So.
And I think I would go with the LGC recommendation, personally.
I would go with that also because Obviously, the LGC has taken over a number of municipalities that have not been able to keep their fund balance at an acceptable level. So they are the authority, the one and only in the United States. No other state has an LGC like we do. So I would
No,
certainly agree with that.
Okay.
Other questions, comments? All right, thank you, Margaret.
Okay.
Hearing none further, we'll leave that item on the consent agenda without objection. Item 15, finance, approval of electronic records and imaging policy and procedures. Again, Margaret.
And Sarah is here in case there are questions as well. I worked with her counterpart, Jason Wolf, on the state template. We brought down the state template and designed it for us. What we're looking to do is, right now we keep a great deal of records electronically and in good old paper boxes. And we would like to move to where a lot of counties and entities are, and the state encourages that we are not doing both. You've got one system, which is electronic. If we find it in the computer, we're not going to the box to make sure it's the same. And we've done a good job. We've done this for so many years that we're comfortable that our accuracy level and our scanning is in good shape. And we worked with them on what systems we had to have in place. We've included for you an example of what all items would be part of what we would see. And I have already, since the packet went out, been asked to add a few things to it, a couple from tax office, another from K, and then there's some other departments that would love to jump on this bandwagon. But the first thing we have to do is get a policy in place that the state approves, and it has been sent to their approval process. Jason did everything looks good to him, but it goes above him for formal approval. But we also need this board to approve that they're comfortable with us saving our records electronically in all the areas we're identifying.
All right.
Sarah, did I say that right? Is she still there?
Yes, you did. I'm still here.
Okay. Do you know, I know Jason said it would be going to someone else, where it's at?
It is probably still with them. It's a busy time of year for us, and we're a little short-staffed, but I'm sure he'll get it back to you as soon as they've approved it. It shouldn't take too much longer, though. They just like to go through it really closely and make sure that all the I's have been dotted and T's have been crossed to help protect you guys in every possible way. So.
And we would not start this process until both approvals are in place. So if we don't have that approved by the 21st of December, we would not change anything until we hear back from the state that they're comfortable with our plan.
Questions on this item?
I'm 100% agreeable. It should have been done a long, long time ago. Let me ask you this. Who would have the authority to go to the records?
To go what?
To go see the records, right off the top of your head? Who would have authority?
Same as
Would
now.
you limit that to a certain group of people that would be able to get into the records?
It would be the same as it is now. They're in ours are in the software system or in Laserfish, two different software programs we use.
Okay.
And those programs have built-in permissions. So if you had someone from the public that wanted to see a record, you would either print it off for them, or you can set up limited permissions for access for records.
Yes.
Margaret, you explained a little bit what the difference now than before, because this is not the first time this board has addressed how to protect our records, and especially the electronic records. And, is this basically the difference in this and the last policy is that you have to have it at two places?
Have the records in two places?
Yes.
No, sir. Our records would be electronically. You don't have to keep them electronically. Right now, we're required to keep them on paper. The fact that we keep them electronically is just convenience for staff, honestly, at this point. Until we approve this, the electronic records are just gravy. The paper records are technically the state's required retention. So, for example, every year in accounts payable, we have approximately 22 of those long banker boxes full of paper for the bills we pay each year. we would no longer have to have a giant room set aside to keep 3 years worth of those boxes, along with all the other things. Payroll takes up, it's about 15 boxes. HR has 3 rooms right now that their boxes are in and their files are in. So again, we'll work with them toward what they can keep within the system that they're already scanning in, and stop keeping the paper as well.
And it's stated in there that they should be stored off-site, which means what kind of protective, fireproof?
So we keep our electronic records in, and this may be a Scott Black question, he helped with that part of the policy. They are in our servers, in our 3 data sites, and then they're in a cloud, and then they're in another backup. Does that sound right? That's where I get fuzzy, is what happens when they go to the clouds.
So the servers are backed up on a local device here in the Avery building. Then that system sends them out to 2 different data centers on the internet that are geographically diverse. So they aren't near each other. Say one's in the central time zone, one's in mountain, something like that. And those copies are kept separate so that they're what they call immutable. They're not able to be changed once they're backed up to there. So, but if we needed to get them back, if we couldn't get them off our local device, then we go to the cloud and we can pull it down from there to recover the data.
It's so that if, God forbid, the Avery building is bombed and gone and we can't get to that, those records aren't gone. They're in 2 other places, and that's why they want one away from us. We actually do 2 extras just to make sure that we can always find our records again.
But again, how would that off-site location, what kind of building, what kind of storage, what would it be like to make sure nobody can break in and steal your data?
It's a computer-based, and it's a company that's what they do. They do this for multiple agencies and entities, so they have all the security in place for their building itself as far as locked access and everything, and also their computers themselves have very strict password protections and such.
Yeah. If you think of like the Google data center that's in Lenore, it's a facility like that. It's a giant warehouse full of computers and access control to their staff. Everything is very secure. It's backed up. It has multiple generators, all that kind of thing. So it's very well protected.
Well, a couple months back, the reason I asked these questions, a couple months back, there's a comic strip in one of the trade magazines, and it was using food, and we just got bombed in 50 states all at one time. And people didn't worry about food. They want to know where their IT stuff was.
Absolutely.
And that's how important that stuff has become, because it is convenient. It is, you can condense it, so it makes it very valuable. But I was just wondering if we was going to be looking for a site, if that site was already there, and what kind of site it is. So you've answered my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other question on this item? Hearing none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Thank you, Margaret. Item number 16, finance response letter to the LGC on audit for June 30th. Again, Margaret.
This is the letter response that was mentioned when we went over the audit, that we're required to give them a somewhat detailed understanding that how are we going to address the fact that we had negative operating in the water sewer fund. And we have identified, of course, we had identified that we might have challenges during budget preparation. So we had already increased the rates by the 5% to give us approximately $78,000 more. We're also looking toward what a rate increase would be next time. I know when Mark came at budget, he requested just over 15%, which is probably the number at that point that we felt like would truly make sure we were viable. We just, when we discussed it, Mark and Brian and I, we just did not feel like that was a good idea with everything going on with the pandemic and to our citizens. And we're also looking, can we have cost savings? And we are hoping that some of the ARP funding, and if we can get some CDBG funding, to identify some of the things, because maintenance repair is a tremendous piece of that budget. So if we can get the maintenance repair down, that's going to do as much as rather than raise rates. We would like to try to get some containment on cost. And I know Mark's got an item coming up just after me that will hopefully be significant to containing some costs. So we're looking broadly at what to do, but this letter, I believe, addresses everything that they need, and it will require a signature from each board member before we can send it to the LGC in response to the audit. And it's required to be turned in within 60 days of the audit presentation.
All right, thank you, Margaret. Any question on this item?
So, Mr. Chairman, just so to be clear, we're about 10% off right now, currently.
And that's
Where
an internal guesstimate estimate, and that's why we'll also be looking at seeing, I know I got some names of a couple companies that can do some evaluations externally for us and maybe see, and they can build us a plan for rates and a plan for some of the other things. Look at efficiencies, tell us other things we might could do rather than raise rates too.
Thank you.
Other questions? All right, hearing none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you.
Item 17, General Services, resolution approving Newville flume transfer to Hickory. And this comes from Mark Delahunty, our General Services Director. Afternoon, Mark.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I come before you this afternoon to request that the county transfer ownership of a wastewater metering device, commonly referred to as a flume, and all related easements to the city of Hickory. As is stated in the summary of information included in your agenda packets, this device calculates the amount of flow which the city of Hickory bills us for. In order to bill for the correct amount, they credit us the amount that they bill their sewer customers, with the assumption that the difference between the flume reading and what they bill their 44 customers is all from our one customer. This arrangement does not take into account any infiltration that would be part of that system. This transfer of ownership is something that the county has known to be in their best interest for quite some time, and I am thrilled to be able to present it to you today for consideration. Now, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you, Mark. Any questions for Mark on this item?
I guess I do have one question. How does the customer feel about this exchange? How does Newville feel about being switched to another entity?
The customer won't know, it's just going to be a different bill coming in the mail, so there won't be any effect on them one way or another.
You don't think we ought to be in conversation with them?
They're getting the easement or some property back that was part of this that should have been let go and we're no longer using, so we have had conversations with them. Actually, what they wanted was a metering device put on their outflow so they didn't have to pay for all the water coming through the meter. And I told them we could do that, but only at their expense, and they weren't willing to do that. So normally all our customers are billed based on their water usage, as is this one.
Do you know what cost we had to build that for that?
It would have been 1984 or something like that, really, I don't. And I think at that time, actually, the sewer system, which these 44 customers was owned by the town of Hildebrand. And in fact, at that time, I think the county was actually doing their maintenance for them. And that's probably how we fell into this arrangement.
So we get no money, they get no money. We just transfer, and who's responsible for that 500 and some foot of sewage line?
Correct.
Does it save us any money?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to crunch all the numbers. There's so many unknown variables as the rainfall and how much that amounts to. And another concern I have is those 44 customers, if they were to add a customer, add 2, 3 customers, there's no checks and balances going on with that. And again, I think this is a good move for us.
Any low and high, Mark?
Excuse me?
The money that we would make, the low price of save, not make, excuse me, by making this transition?
How much money we'll save or reduce, I'd have to go through the bills based on the credit they issue and everything, but I know it's in our best interest, that I can guarantee. I don't have a dollar amount fixed to that.
That's all right, okay. Thank you. That's all I had, Chairman.
So the customer is going to continue to pay his water bill the same?
They already pay a water bill to the town of Eichert. Their sewer bill, which Town of Byker gives us a water reading, and that's what we use, that number, to bill them monthly for their sewer. And the Town of Byker is also gives those same numbers to the city of Hickory for those 44 customers of theirs.
So at this point then, the city of Hickory will be billing them for their sewer.
Right.
Could it be possible they would see a decrease?
No, I don't think so. I can't speak for the city of Hickory. We get Hickory's imposed upon us by the city of Hickory regularly also, so.
Other questions? Hearing none, this item will remain on the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Item 18, Partners Health, presentation of financial information for the period ending September 30th, 2021. This will be presented by Dr. Katie Bernardo from Partners. Katie.
And thank you. Yeah, I'm on.
Okay.
Thank you for allowing me to come in here via Zoom. And I can't see what's on the screen. I'm thinking that it's our quarterly report that I sent to Kay, and I can briefly go over that with you all. And I apologize, on my end, it's saying that I have an unstable internet connection. So if I go in and out, I apologize for that. The first thing I do want to do is update you on Medicaid transformation. And we recently learned that our go live date for tailored plan management moved from July 1st of 2022 to December 1st of 2022. So that extends our time to plan and really implement the tailored plan well. So I do want to give you that date change. And then I'll be quick with looking over the quarterly report so I can answer any questions that you guys might have. And so this is for the first quarter ending October of 2021. And whole person transitional care is our care coordination for people leaving emergency departments and are at high risk. So that, as you can see, those columns we're pulling down on track for the fiscal year. Our child and adult collaborative is showing that we don't have any expenses yet, but we did use those funds for the recovery rally. And then our consumer reserves have gone to support individuals with emergent needs like housing and things like that. So down a little bit further, you can see that CVBH, we contract with them for peer support services in the jail, therapy services in the jail, the Moores program, and psychiatric support. So those 4 programs they have served several hundred people in those programs alone. And if you allow me to, I can send you those exact numbers. I don't have those in front of me right at this very moment, but I can send you the exact numbers, and you can see that they are also on track for the fiscal year as far as pulling down dollars for those programs. If you will excuse me just one second. I'm sorry about that. My internet is bad. But then our Greater Hickory Cooperative Christian Ministries, I do want to pull your attention to that. We have actually taken those funds back internal for that program. So we've actually hired the person through Partners to manage those funds, because at the time that we sent out the contracts, Greater Hickory Cooperative Christian Ministries, they weren't able to accept the contract. So in order to continue those services, we just hired that person internally. And then our housing reserves have gone to also support members with emergent housing needs. And NAMI is doing their regular support groups, which are serving from 5 to 10 people each month. And so do you guys have any questions for me?
All right, thank you, Katie. Any questions for Katie on this item? Seeing here none, this item will remain on our consent agenda. Thank you, Katie, for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for letting me zoom in.
you. Have a good day.
You too.
Item 19 comes from our tax department, tax collection report for November 2021. This comes from Danny Eisenhower, our tax administrator. Afternoon, Danny.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Tax collection report is for the period of July 1 through November 30th. We'll just go down the list. The property tax, we're at 75.76% collected. Motor vehicle, 44.08. The combined of those two is 72.48. Delinquent taxes, we're at 57.45%. Late list penalty at 40.89%. And then the tax levy, which does not include the motor vehicles, we are at 73.62% collected.
All right, thank you, Danny. Any questions for Danny on this report?
Chairman, I just hate to hear, of course, Brian's announcement about Danny. I believe your retirement coming up. Hate to hear these retirements coming up. These are really good quality people that have been with us a long time, so hate to lose y'all.
Thank you.
We did order 2 sets of leggings.
All right, any other questions? All right, hearing none, item 19 will remain on the consent agenda, and then item 20, release refund report, Danny.
Refund report is for November 21. We had releases on the tax system of $7,039.60. There was no rebills this month, so the net release remains the same. Refund amount is $82.59, and the VTS showed no refunds over $100.
All right, thank you, Danny. Any question on this report? Hearing none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Thank you, Danny.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Item number 7 for decision. We do not have any decision item this month. And then item 8, reports. I'll remind you, if you've got reports from other organizations that you want to include in our packages, please give those to the clerk so she can take care of that. I'll remind you that county offices are closed December 23rd through the 27th for Christmas holidays. Spay and neuter your pets, adopt or foster a pet from our animal services department. And don't throw your trash out. And if you see something, pick it up. And Mr. Manager, I'll recognize Shane, is that right?
Yes,
For,
sir.
report
Thank you.
item.
We trying to innovate and make improvements, so we've been, Shane's help in the department, trying to do some more things online to help our development community.
Mm-hmm.
And who are really the customers of the department, interact with the department a little more efficiently. So we've been trying to roll out a few new online type of interactions with our customers who are the development community, basically, in Burke County. We're expecting residential numbers this year for permitting to be up 10% year over year. And I understand from prior years that that was also a trend going upwards, improving. So we're an externally facing department for all of our building permits, zoning permits, and code enforcement complaints. So more online is helpful for staff. It makes it more efficient for folks in the community to interact with our department. And so we are handing out this, this new scheduling card with any permits now, trying to advertise and let people know they can make their request online, and then we'll do our best to schedule it just as soon as possible. Now, typically, we're 2 to 3 days out with our inspections due to the volumes of permits out there that are active. So this is a little more efficient. It saves a phone call into the office. It saves people a little bit of time. Now, over time, we'd like to do more online for customers, and that includes folks paying their bills or payments, making their payment for the permitting online as well. And we hope to roll something out next year and have that tie in with Munis. So it's a way to, people don't have to actually mail a check in or come to the office. They can do it online, just like you do for any other kind of online services that we're all getting accustomed to. So with that, Shane wants to show you how this will work. He's put it together for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alan. So as you all can see, this is the business card that we've been handing out with our new permits going out and handing out to existing permits on job sites. There's two ways you can access it. We have a short URL at berkensea.org/inspection, or you take a picture of the QR code with your phone. It is mobile compatible. It's built through our existing website that we have. This is a feature that's already built. So when you follow the link, it takes you to this form page on our website, and it asks for the basic information that we need to process your inspection request. And this addresses two issues within our department that we've had. Is one, that this was, prior to this, our only option to schedule an inspection was you had to call us. You had to call us during business hours or leave a message, and we had to process it. And the second part is it led to, in a 1 month period, I averaged it out, our department gets an average of 77 calls per day. And I'd say 80% or more come through the front desk, through Amy, who also has the responsibility of handling in-person customers who are coming in, who want to get permits, need more help, while the phone's ringing. So the majority of those calls really are about requesting this inspection. It's an important basic step that goes into all of our permits, and they need those inspections so they can move on. What this is going to do is allow them to, at any point, any location, it can be from a desktop or on their phone, they bookmark it, they go in there, they fill in their requests, they get their information, same information that we request, guides them through, they get a date, any additional information. When they have that all in there, what they do is they can request a copy emailed back to themselves if they want, and then they submit it. And that's it. It's simple, it's quick, it saves them the time of having to call in, maybe not getting us, having to leave a voicemail, wondering if that they've got confirmation. What we do now is on the back end, we have a shared community inbox that everyone has access to. We get an alert, it's pre-filtered, goes into the right folder. Everyone can see it. It says, hey, we've got a new request. We take that out, we process it, we put it in the done folder, and we say, hey, you're scheduled on Tuesday, you're good to go. They get a confirmation email, and that's that. Saves them the phone call, saves us from having to go through that, take a message, write it down, and process it 3 times. So this is a huge step for us to being more responsive to where the public is going and the expectations are going and the convenience that people can do this on a Saturday. And it's a big step for us towards our big priority in our department of trying to get to a system where the customer is doing the information. They have to write it on a form. Well, we want them to type that into a form that then comes into our back-end systems like Munis that allows them to do the entry, to get it right, us to just double check it, and then move to a system of online pay. So it decreases the need for folks to take a day off from their busy schedules to come down into our office to write a check or pay us for a permit or get help, stuff that we can help walk them through online in the comfort of their own home on a Saturday, whenever they have time to do it after hours, that they can put in the information, they can do online pay, and they're rolling, and we keep development moving in this county.
Shane, is this something that staff can access in the field as well?
Absolutely. It's just the webpage on the county webpage, so we can access this information. It follows along with our Microsoft compatible inboxes, so you can get it on your phone. So we have access to this everywhere that we have access to all of our email. And moving us into working with existing systems that we have and that compatibility across people, across platforms. If somebody's out, it's not tied to a single person. Everyone, I have access to it, Alan does, everyone in our department can get into this folder and make sure that we're not missing anything for customers and it's seamless on their end.
Any questions for Shane on this item?
I don't have a question on this particular item, but may I ask Alan and Shane another question? Alan, if I want to take just a moment to, again, thank you for sending us the permit summary. I'm just pleased with new single-family dwellings going up to 209. Do you have a feel, I know you've been here a short period of time, do you have a feel, are we looking at four people, families, a kind of a price range or a particular area of the county that this is coming from?
I'll need to do a little more analysis on that. I'm not prepared to speak to that issue, but that's a great question. You know, are they second homes? I mean, a number of them are second homes, but our sort of manufactured home has sort of tracked the same numbers and the same 10% increase. And I would say those folks are probably residents here who are probably family oriented. So, but maybe we can do some analysis on where they're going and what the price point is.
I think it would be advantageous if we took a look at that so we can get a better feel for the number is great, but I'd like to see what the number's actually telling me if I could. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Other questions, comments? Mr. Manager, you got anything else?
Well, I didn't know. I know, this is coming in the report section. Didn't know if the board would want to get a little more publicity about, this is fantastic. This is good government. And it's meeting our citizens' needs and making it easy for them. If you would like them to come back and maybe during the presentation portion of our agenda, do this again, I don't know, whatever the board would like, but I am just, that's the cat's meow. That is just really, really neat. And I'm so thankful that we've had these younger minds that are coming up with this kind of stuff, and they're all looking for better ways to do business, to make it easier, doing a better job for our taxpayers and our citizens. So whatever the board would like to do.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, and thank you to you guys. This is something that I've certainly heard from our builders and folks in the area for quite some time. You know, we'd like to be able to interact with your offices, mobile and pay, you know, all these things. So I certainly this is a good news for those guys. I'm sure we get a lot of repeat folks that will really appreciate this. I'm certainly open to, if you want to make a presentation, if you think that is helpful. What's the thought of the board? We're certainly open if you'd like to do that.
Sure, we'll be happy to do that.
All right, great. All right, other discussions, items, anything else we need to talk about this afternoon? Brian, did you want to report on our facilities searching, or at this point, or you want to wait and do that in closed session or later?
Yeah, I need to do some things in closed session with y'all about that. And I'd also want to do an update to you on the where we are with the development of an RFQ for architectural design services related to the remodeling of the old former Burke Catawba Detention Facility to become the new long-term regional substance abuse facility. And that is coming up. And I'm putting my foot on the gas. I've talked with a former classmate of mine who's a state budget director, and he is telling me the timelines he thinks it will be for the state to issue any kind of agreements we would need to complete in order to obtain the monies that were appropriated in the state budget to us for this purpose. And I want to get that going and also tie in Partners Mental Health as well as the other clinical service providers early on with the architect for them to understand what the service providers need in order to fulfill the delivery of the appropriate treatment to the people that would go there. So I'm really excited, and we may be back in front of you in February asking for authority to negotiate a contract with an architect at that point in time.
All right, thank you. All right.
Mr. Chairman, may I, one more thing? NCACC will be having a meeting, a special call meeting Friday, Margaret, at which time there will be discussion about the budget that was just passed. NCACC received $10 million to help counties with their ARP funds. There will be something put in place. Let me put it that way. Something put in place that counties will be able to go to NCACC if they need additional resources in when it comes to the spending of the ARP money. We have a preliminary of what we're going to talk about, but I just want to let you know that that is coming up this Friday, and hopefully after Friday, we'll be able to make an announcement from NCACC as far as the ARP monies and the $10 million that will be available out to the 100 counties.
Thank you. Any other reports, comments? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that's all of us. Thank you very much.